You're listening to Beyond the Surface with Faith Davis, a commitment to authenticity and the truths we inherently share. In this episode, we will be discussing my experience with therapy and if I believe it's truly worth it. Therapy is such a hot topic right now. I feel like it's on every ad and billboard that you're seeing because the healthcare system is trying to profit off people because therapy just became popularized through verbiage and social media. I think that a lot of people are unaware of what gaslighting and boundaries really mean, but besides the point, because in retrospect, there are people in that profession, just like any other one, who are truly trying to help others, and the light being shined on this can be used for people's benefit. I personally have been seeing counselors for what feels like my entire life. I started around 3rd or 4th grade, 4th, not firth, anyways, because that was the first time I told my counselor I had gotten beaten by my mother. She used a shoe and busted my knee open. It had been bleeding through my stocking, and at that age, I felt like I had to tell someone. And little did I know about mandated reporting. After that experience, I shared a lot less, but continued speaking with school counselors until the middle of college. From that point, my diagnosis was generalized anxiety and depression. That diagnosis, or both of them diagnoses, stuck for years, and they didn't feel like they were really worth anything because everyone was experiencing these states of being. At least everyone I was around at that point. I began seeing a licensed therapist my 2nd year of college. From that point on, I couldn't yap to my friends about really serious stuff anymore. I was realizing how much my childhood had an effect on my thoughts and habits. And the worst part was, it was affecting my studies. I'd worked so hard to get out of my abusive household for me to get in my own way. I'd been in telehealth therapy due to COVID when the schools closed, but that period of time, therapy was ineffective for multiple reasons. And I'm sorry, trigger warning. A lot of things I'm gonna say are gonna bring you back to that time during the pandemic. And, life, we're still healing from it now. And to be current, the hurricane and landslide in North Carolina, just all the things that are currently going on, like, the world is suffering, and it has been for some time. But for me personally, I felt like if I was going to go to therapy, it needed to be in person because I felt like that was the most effective way. So when everything reopened, I was able to go in person again. It only took about 4 months. Why do you guys hear that I have like a little accent sometimes? Anyway, I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And from that 2nd year of my college up until 2022, which is when I got the first PTSD diagnosis, I had been raped, removed from my family and friends, and had been in an abusive relationship all while the pandemic was going on. So the isolation I experienced, coupled with the dystopian isolation we all experience, sent me over the edge, and I could no longer function. I had the hardest time admitting these truths to myself, but the effects were so loud in my life that this was the first time I opted for medication. Previous to that time, I was against it because I had been brainwashed, just like most people in the Black community, to believe that these forms of help were not really helpful and that they were looked at and seen as a negative because, that just labeled you as crazy. The first medication I was put on was Zoloft, aka Sertraline, and it was just supposed to give me a semblance of my mind back. It was horrible to adjust to, but after 6 weeks, my mind went quiet in a way that it hadn't since I was a little girl dreaming of all the possibilities of life. Then, after 7 weeks, I could say I felt really good. I went from not sleeping, hearing auditory hallucinations, crying uncontrollably, being impulsive, not eating, to the complete opposite. Granted, with the last of my own willpower, I was able to discipline myself and exercise consistently. I had started eating the right foods and understood how good it felt to be healthy, body and mind alike. But the joy from these things faded as my life's circumstances continued to deteriorate. Long story short, I had been trying to pursue my dreams of being in the fashion industry, but my school was bought out and no longer had financial aid. I couldn't get private loans as a poor person, and I even was going to attend the program at ASU, but I didn't know if I'd have a spot in the dorms, and when I found out I did, it was too late. During that time, my therapist recommended an inpatient program that ran for 4 weeks. With not getting into FIDM, that's the school I was talking about first, I had been trying everything I could to keep my momentum because I was reeling from breaking up with an abusive ex and feeling like myself for the first time in years. I wanted to keep everything going forward. So my therapist told me that if I went to this program, I could have more of an individual approach, which is what I thought therapy was initially, but I guess it's not, because I had to learn, probably like a lot of other people, that the mental health system has its own barriers. There's barriers with insurance, there's barriers with just even communicating with the people in the offices. So I figured, you know what, this could be a step in the right direction. And it is frustrating. I won't deny the frustration that comes with the mental health journey and being in those environments. Because it's like sometimes you'll have to run around in circles just to receive help. And it does get tired fast. But only you know your limits, and remembering that it's a journey and not a one-step cure-all, and that our system is a very much toe up from the flow up. That you are going to have to give them patience in the same way that you have to give yourself that patience and grace. But apart from that, I went to the program, and it included talk therapy, group therapy, and DBT, which is a psycho-based therapy that helps people manage their emotions and improve relationships. Clearly what I needed. And it ended with a new diagnosis and either an upping of your dosage or a new medication. I ended the program with a new diagnosis of BPD, aka borderline personality disorder. You thought I was bipolar, didn't you? Ha 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 ha. Wrong diagnosis. No shade. Anyway. But I know it's very intimidating and daunting. All of those diagnoses are. And I can feel the judgment bubbling in your mind. It was very overwhelming when I found out and my dosage was increased. But I immediately had book recommendations and was doing my own research. So I can say that apart from the overwhelmed feelings, that I did enjoy the experience because of the people I met. They had things like PTSD and bipolar and borderline, just like myself, among other things. And, you know, they were like your everyday people. It's not people that you would expect. So, you know, the stigma, it's like null and void when you're actually in it. Not to say that those types of people don't exist, but it's not in a way that you think. And I believe that understanding the psychology of why I developed the patterns I did was helpful. And I understand how people could think it's not, because if you're the kind of person that just vents, it will feel like you're just talking to a brick wall and not getting any needs met, because it does require some level of sacrifice within yourself. And that doesn't mean like not being able to eat the donuts that you want because, you know, you're on a diet. But I mean like allowing yourself to be vulnerable in ways that you never have been. And if you feel like you don't want to do that, it might not be very helpful for you. It's all in your next steps. After that program, I didn't continue with therapy. I took a break. I felt like I needed time to just process the years of therapy that I had gone through and really sit with my diagnosis and sit with myself. Because the worst thing you can do is try to drown yourself with more and more self-help. That is going to stress you out more than anything else, because you're not a project that needs to be fixed. You're a person who has experienced things in your life that have affected you, and you're going to undo them so that you can have a better life. You don't have to look at yourself like a project, because that is going to make you feel like you need to hurry up or that there's a timetable. You get what I mean? And there's no timetable, because sometimes you'll feel great and sometimes you'll feel shit. But I do think that your journey when it comes to medication can be hit or miss, because acclimating to medication is hit or miss. But it's, like I said, again, just giving yourself the opportunity to try, especially as Black people, to try. And I understand those people who are like, oh, it's just a way for the capitalist system to control you and keep you complacent. Like, yeah, I get that. But it's also, you know, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And if you're intelligent enough to know what is helping you and how to utilize it and, you know, use that wisdom, then you'll be all right. And if you need help, seek help and keep seeking until you find what you're looking for. But I think that people have to understand right now in our society, we are missing that social experience with each other. And if it's hard to socialize because you can't open up, or, you know, the people who are trying to heal, if we just keep being met with people who refuse to heal because it's hard, well, we just gonna run ourselves in a circle, huh? And we don't want to do that. So there's other forms of therapy, and there's other ways to get help that are inexpensive, because as a poor person with only Medicaid, I understand that sometimes you might not be getting the most efficient help. But you also have to help yourself. And that is going to be the most important thing on your therapy journey. You don't need a yes man, and you don't need any people in your life who are going to enable you to keep the behaviors and ideas that brought you to therapy in the first place. So Black people, I want you to be more open to different ways of healing. And I want everyone to understand that therapy is worth it if you want to focus on yourself in a serious way. But I will warn you that you will go through many phases of acceptance and anger. But I hope that they lead you to revolutionary ideas for your own life, and that you take charge of those ideas and you make them a reality. Because all of us, like, really leaning into our authenticity is gonna make the world a better place. Because the reason why it sucks is because everyone's lying and everyone is bitched out. Excuse my language. I didn't think I was gonna swear in this, but here I am, swearing. So I want you guys to take what I'm saying, take it, you know, at a grain of salt, because everybody is on different levels of, you know, experience in their life. Everybody's understanding is different. Everybody's everything is different, as much as we have so many things in common. On the next episode, we will be discussing my experience in the Black family.